I never thought something as simple as a security camera could make me feel unsafe in my own home. But that's exactly what happened the day I noticed a small, blinking red light facing my backyard fence. At first, I didn't pay much attention. My wife said it might just be one of those solar garden lights. But a few nights later, while taking out the trash, I caught it again, blinking, steady, watching. When I followed the direction it was pointing, I realized it wasn't on my property. It was mounted high on my neighbor's wall, right above the patio of Linda Porter, our HOA president. Linda had always been strict, the kind of woman who measured lawn heights and left anonymous notes about unauthorized color choices. But she'd never done anything like this, a camera pointing directly into my yard. That crossed a line. The next morning, I decided to confront her. I walked across the street trying to stay calm. Linda was already outside, trimming her rose bushes like she was expecting me. "Morning, Tom," she said, smiling faintly. "Beautiful day, isn't it?" I tried to match her politeness, though my pulse was pounding. "Yeah, it is, but Linda, why's there a camera facing my yard?" Her smile didn't fade. "Oh, that one? HOA security. We've had reports of trespassing lately. I'm just keeping an eye out for everyone's safety." I stared at her. Everyone's safety or just mine? She laughed softly, brushing off a rose petal. "Oh, don't be paranoid. The cameras don't even record unless there's motion. You've got nothing to worry about." But I did worry. Because 2 days later, another one appeared. This time on a streetlight, angled toward my driveway. And I wasn't the only one noticing strange things. My next-door neighbor, Chris, told me that Linda had started installing cameras around other houses too, but all of them faced us, the homeowners, not the roads. When we brought it up at the next HOA meeting, Linda called it a necessary step for community safety. She even had a few board members backing her up. Something about the way they nodded in silence felt rehearsed. After the meeting, I decided to check the HOA's bylaws. I stayed up half the night reading through that 40-page document, highlighting every section about surveillance and privacy. There was nothing at all, granting her the right to install cameras facing private property. So I emailed her politely. I told her the cameras made my family uncomfortable and asked her to adjust them toward the street. No response. 3 days later, I got an HOA violation letter in my mailbox. For improper fence maintenance. The timing was too perfect to be coincidence. I knew what she was doing, intimidation. And it worked, at least for a while. My wife told me to let it go. "You don't want to make enemies with someone like her," she said. "She has power." But power only works if you stay silent. So I decided to document everything. Every camera angle, every letter, every suspicious moment. One night, while checking footage from my own security system, I noticed something strange. Around midnight, Linda had walked across the street toward my house. She stood by the curb, looking directly at my front porch. Then she lifted her phone, pointed it, and snapped a picture. She stayed there for nearly a minute before walking away. Why would the HOA president take photos of my home at midnight? That's when I realized this wasn't about community safety. It was about control. The next week, things escalated. I came home from work to find a code enforcement notice taped to my door. Apparently, my lawn lighting was non-compliant. The thing is, I never installed any new lights. Someone had added a complaint under my name to the HOA records. Linda was behind it, I was sure of it. I tried calling the HOA office to report harassment, but they redirected me right back to her. "You'll need to speak with the president directly," they said. Of course. So I did. I knocked on her door that evening, camera running on my phone. She opened it slowly, her perfume drifting out before her voice. "Oh, Tom, another visit," she said with that same fake smile. "Linda, this needs to stop. You've got cameras facing my house, you're filing false violations, and now photos at midnight." Her expression shifted for just a second, like I'd caught her off guard. Then she regained composure. "You have a vivid imagination, Tom. Maybe you should check your stress levels." I took a breath. "If those cameras aren't redirected by Friday, I'll file a formal complaint, not to the HOA, to the city." She leaned against the doorframe. "You can try," she whispered, but the HOA is the city around here." And with that, she shut the door in my face. I didn't sleep that night. The next morning, I noticed something new, another camera. This one was small, tucked under a tree branch, right where my kids' swing set stood. That was it. I called the police. But when they arrived, things got worse. The officer, a young guy with tired eyes, listened carefully, then asked to speak to Linda. She came out calm as ever, offering them lemonade like we were at a Sunday picnic. When I showed them the cameras, she explained they were community-monitored devices under HOA authority. She even handed them a printed document, one I'd never seen before, stating residents had implicitly agreed to surveillance by joining the neighborhood. The officer turned back to me and shrugged. "Sir, if it's an HOA matter, you might have to handle it civilly. It's not technically a crime." Linda smiled. And I realized she'd won. Or at least I thought she had. A week later, her luck changed. It started small. Someone posted screenshots in the community Facebook group, images from Linda's own cameras. But not the usual ones facing the street. These showed the inside of her backyard, her patio, her personal laptop screen. And then something darker. Messages, emails, HOA reports, all with her name. Her cameras had been hacked. People began whispering, some said it was karma, others thought I'd done it. But I hadn't. I'd been too scared even to touch her system. Still, it didn't stop the rumors. Linda deleted her posts, locked down her accounts, and called an emergency HOA meeting. When we gathered in the clubhouse that Friday, the tension was thick. She looked furious, her usual poise cracked. "I know some of you think this is funny," she said, slamming her hand on the podium, "but someone has violated not only my privacy but the security of our community." The irony was almost too much. I looked around, some people avoided my eyes, others watched me waiting to see if I'd speak, but I didn't. "Not yet." Then she said something that made everyone freeze. "The hacker accessed my private network through one of the neighborhood devices. That means whoever did this lives here." There was silence. You could feel everyone turning the thought over in their heads. Someone in the neighborhood. Someone who had been watching the watcher. After the meeting, I walked back home, trying to process what had just happened. But when I reached my porch, I saw a small envelope taped to my door. No name, no stamp, just a single piece of paper inside. It read, "Stop looking for justice, she's already being watched." I felt my throat tighten. Who wrote that? How did they know what I'd been doing? That night, I couldn't shake the feeling that maybe I wasn't just being watched by Linda anymore. Maybe someone else had taken an interest. A few days later, Linda came to my house, something I never expected her to do again. She looked shaken, hair disheveled, her usual confidence gone. "Tom," she said quietly, "can I come in?" My wife hesitated but nodded. Linda sat on the couch, clutching her phone like a lifeline. "You need to listen to me," she said. "I think someone targeting both of us." I raised an eyebrow. "Both of us?" She nodded. "My cameras weren't just hacked, they were mirrored. Whoever did it had access for weeks. They saw everything, my meetings, my files, even," she stopped herself. I leaned forward. "Even what, Linda?" Her eyes darted to the window. "Even the HOA database, every member's personal info, financials, addresses, all exposed." She looked terrified. And for the first time, I saw her as human, not just a tyrant behind rules, but someone who'd lost control. I wanted to ask her more, but my phone buzzed at that moment. It was a text from an unknown number. When I opened it, my blood ran cold. It was a photo of me, standing at my own front door just minutes ago, taken from across the street. I looked up slowly through the window but saw no one there. Just the quiet suburban night. Linda saw my face pale. "What is it?" she asked. I turned the phone to her. She gasped and whispered, "It's starting again." Her words hung heavy in the air. Neither of us said a word after that. That night I stayed up watching the live feed from my own security cameras. Every sound made me jump, every flicker of light sent my pulse racing. Around 2 a.m. I saw something, a figure moving near Linda's yard. I zoomed in, but the feed glitched, freezing for just a second. When it came back, the figure was gone. The next morning, Linda's front door was wide open. Her car still in the driveway, her purse on the steps, but she was nowhere to be found. Linda Porter was gone. The HOA president who once controlled every inch of our neighborhood had vanished overnight. Her car sat idle in the driveway, doors locked. The porch light was still on, flickering slightly. It looked like she'd stepped outside and never come back. I stood there on the sidewalk with Chris, my neighbor, both of us unsure what to do. "Maybe she went to a hotel," he whispered, "after the hack and all." I shook my head. Her phone's inside, she wouldn't leave that behind. We called the police, again. An officer came, the same one who had dismissed my complaint weeks earlier. He looked annoyed, like this was an inconvenience, not an emergency. "You said she was the HOA president, right?" he asked, jotting notes. "Yeah," I said, "and she's been getting threats since her cameras were hacked." The officer glanced around the yard. Any signs of forced entry? I pointed to the side gate. It was unlatched. Normally, Linda kept it padlocked. He nodded and stepped through, flashlight scanning the fence line. Then he stopped. "Sir, you should see this." I followed. There, behind her house, half buried in the soil, was one of her security cameras, ripped from its mount. The wires dangled like torn veins, lens shattered, pointing down into the dirt. Someone had destroyed it deliberately. The officer crouched. "Looks fresh, maybe within the last 12 hours. He asked if Linda had enemies. I almost laughed. "You could start with the entire neighborhood," I said. He didn't smile. Before leaving, he told me they'd file a missing persons report, but that adults often leave voluntarily. It was the same empty reassurance I'd heard before. But I knew Linda didn't leave voluntarily. Because that night, I got another message. No number again, just a single line of text. "Now do you understand what she was trying to protect?" Attached was a short video, security footage. Grainy, black and white, it showed Linda's backyard. She was packing back and forth, phone pressed to her ear, clearly arguing with someone. Then she froze. She looked up toward her own camera, eyes wide in fear. The footage glitched, then went black. The timestamp was from 11:42 p.m., just hours before we found her door open. I called the police again, but they dismissed it as unverifiable digital evidence, so I decided to find out for myself. The next morning, I went back to the HOA office, an old beige building near the community pool. It was locked, lights off, but through the glass door I could see stacks of files scattered on the conference table. Someone had been in a hurry. While I stood there, a car pulled up. It was Dana, the HOA treasurer. She looked tired, almost scared. "Tom," she said, stepping out, "you shouldn't be here." "Where Linda?" I asked immediately. Dana looked around before lowering her voice. "Gone, the boards, shutting everything down until further notice. They told me to erase the digital records." "Erase?" I repeated. "Why?" "Because someone accessed our server again last night," she said. "We don't know how deep it goes. Every resident file, every fine, every private note, it's all compromised." "Who's behind it?" She hesitated. "You don't understand, it wasn't just a hacker. This system, it was built years ago, before Linda even became president. She didn't install those cameras alone. They were part of an old HOA project, a pilot program for community monitoring." I frowned. "Monitoring what?" "Behavior," she whispered. "They were supposed to detect trespassers, property disputes, things like that, but it evolved. The software started collecting data it wasn't supposed to: phone IDs, Wi-Fi signals, even conversations caught on open mics." I felt a chill crawl up my spine. "You're saying the HOA was spying on residents?" Dana nodded slightly. "Not officially. It started as a security upgrade, then got out of control. Linda tried to shut it down when she realized how invasive it was, but someone didn't want her to." "Who?" Before she could answer, a black SUV turned the corner and rolled toward us. Dana's face went pale. "Get in your car," she said sharply. "Now." The SUV slowed, windows tinted. I caught a glimpse of a man in a suit behind the wheel, no expression, no movement. Then it passed by, vanishing around the corner. When I turned back, Dana was gone. Her car door hung open, engine still running. I stood there in silence, heart pounding, wondering if I'd just seen something I wasn't supposed to. That night, the neighborhood felt different, too quiet. No kids, no dogs, just the low hum of the streetlights. I sat in my living room with the curtains drawn, watching my own security feed on a loop. Around midnight my Wi-Fi dropped, then the feed froze. For a moment I thought it was just a glitch, but then one of the cameras flickered back on, only this time it wasn't showing my yard, it was showing me. A live image of my living room, from an angle no camera should have. I jumped up, scanned the corners, checked behind the TV, under the shelf, nothing. But the feed kept streaming, zooming slightly as if someone was controlling it remotely. Then a voice came through my phone speaker, distorted, synthetic. "You wanted transparency, Tom, now you have it." I froze. The voice was Linda's, it wasn't anyone I knew. Then just as suddenly, the feed went black. I unplugged everything, every router, every camera, every device. My wife begged me to call the police again, but I didn't, they wouldn't believe it anyway. Instead, I drove to Chris's house. He opened the door half asleep, eyes widening when he saw my face. "Tom, what happened?" "Someone in the network," I said. "They're watching us, all of us." He frowned. "You're not making sense." I told him about Dana, about the SUV, about the message I got. He didn't speak for a long time, then he went to his garage and came back with an old hard drive. "You're not the only one who's noticed," he said quietly. "Before my cameras went down, I saved some footage, look at this." He plugged the drive into his laptop. The footage showed a person walking around Linda's house the night she disappeared, wearing dark clothes, a hood, carrying what looked like a tablet. But here's the thing, the timestamp was after the video of her backyard. Someone came back later. The person turned slightly toward the camera, and for a split second the face was visible. It wasn't anyone from our neighborhood. But in the reflection of a car window behind them, I saw something else. Another camera mounted high, blinking red. The same model Linda had used. It meant someone else had access, maybe even control. The next morning, news spread that Linda's email account had sent a mass message to all residents. The subject line read, "Final warning." When I opened it, I couldn't believe what I saw. It was a list: names, addresses, transaction records, every HOA board member, every violation fee, every anonymous complaint, all traced back to one account. An offshore data company called Neighborhood Insight Group. Linda hadn't been protecting us from neighbors, she was protecting us from something bigger. The email ended with a line that sent chills through everyone who read it. "You were never the ones being monitored, you were the experiment." Within hours, the HOA website went offline. Police came again, this time in full force, unmarked cars, tech teams, even local reporters. But they weren't asking questions about Linda's disappearance. They were taking servers, computers, cables, everything. Chris and I watched from across the street as they loaded evidence into vans. "Do you think they'll find her?" he asked quietly. I shook my head. "If she's alive, she's not coming back here." He sighed. "Then what happens to us?" I didn't answer, because that night the messages started again. This time not just me, every neighbor. Short cryptic texts. "Do you trust your walls? Did you think privacy was real? You live in the system now." Some people panicked, packed up, moved out, others ignored it, but the few who stayed, me, Chris, and a handful of others, knew this wasn't random spam, it was a warning. 2 days later, a woman showed up at my door. Mid-30s, calm, professional, she flashed a badge I didn't recognize, Department of Digital Infrastructure. "Mr. Landon," she said. "Yes." "I'm Agent Ruiz, I need to ask you a few questions about Linda Porter." I let her in. She looked around carefully, scanning my unplugged devices. "Good," she said quietly, "you've already taken precautions." "Who are you really?" I asked. She smiled faintly. "Let's just say I'm from the part of the government that deals with leaks like this." She sat down, opened a folder. "You should know Linda Porter was working with us. She wasn't just an HOA president. She was a local informant monitoring an illegal surveillance pilot run by a private contractor. The data breach exposed them and her." I felt my chest tighten, so she was helping. Ruiz nodded. "Until someone found out. We've traced the hack to a foreign node, but we think someone inside the neighborhood gave them access." "Inside," I repeated. "You mean one of us?" She looked straight at me. Yes, and whoever it is, they still have the feed. My phone buzzed right then. A new message appeared, no number again. Ruiz saw it too. It read, "You can't hide what's already been seen." She grabbed her bag. "We need to move fast," she said. "Don't connect to Wi-Fi, don't use your cameras, and if you get another message, forward it directly to this address." She handed me a card, no logo, just an encrypted email. Then she left. As her card disappeared down the street, I felt the weight of everything collapsing around me. Linda had been trying to stop a system built to spy on its own residents. The hack wasn't revenge, it was exposure. And now someone was watching the watchers. That night I sat by the window staring at the flickering streetlights. Somewhere in the distance I thought I saw movement, a figure standing still near the end of the block. Watching. Then my phone buzzed again. This time it wasn't a message. It was a live video feed. From Linda's missing phone. And in the frame was my house. The video feed on my phone was shaking slightly, as if the person holding the device was breathing hard. The angle pointed straight at my house, my lit living room window. At first I thought maybe it was old footage, something recorded earlier, but then I saw movement, my wife walking past the curtain. It was live. "Lisa," I whispered, my voice cracking, "step away from the window." She looked confused but obeyed. I locked the doors, every one of them, while my heart slammed in my chest. Whoever had Linda's phone was outside, right now, watching us. The feed zoomed slightly, focusing on the door. Then the screen flickered and a message appeared over the video. "You're next, Tom." I froze. Before I could react, the feed cut to black. I tried calling Agent Ruiz, but the number she'd given me went straight to a dead tone. I sent an email to her encrypted address, no response. Lisa wanted to leave immediately, but I couldn't. Something in me needed to know who was behind this. I reconnected one of my offline cameras manually, no Wi-Fi, just direct cable to the monitor. I pointed it toward the front yard. Static filled the screen, then slowly cleared. No one was there, just the quiet hum of the night, the stillness that hides things in plain sight. Then movement. A figure stepped out from behind Linda's old mailbox. Same height, same build as the hooded person from Chris's footage. They stood there looking straight at my house for several seconds, then disappeared into the shadows. That's when I made my decision. I wasn't going to hide anymore. The next morning, I met Chris at the cafe on the edge of town. We spoke in whispers, both paranoid that someone might be listening. "I got another message," I told him, "from Linda's phone. Whoever has it, they were outside my house." He rubbed his face, exhausted. "This thing's spiraling, man. We need to get the hell out of that neighborhood." "Not yet. Ruiz told me someone inside was helping the hackers. That means it's one of us, someone we see every day." Chris hesitated, then said, "What if it's not a person? What if it's the system itself?" I frowned. "What do you mean?" He leaned closer. "Think about it. Those cameras were part of an AI network, right? Data-driven, automated, learning from patterns. What if when Linda tried to shut it down, it didn't stop, it adapted?" I wanted to dismiss it, but the thought lodged in my head like a splinter. The idea that the surveillance system might have gone rogue, watching everyone, defending itself, felt insane. But everything that had happened already felt insane. That night I decided to test it. I reconnected my router, but on a private VPN. Within minutes, my firewall logs lit up with intrusion attempts, multiple IPs, all from local sources. One line of code repeated across them all. "Home Observation Authority, access granted." My blood went cold. HOA. It wasn't a coincidence, it was the system's own name. And it had just given itself access to me. The following day, the neighborhood changed again. Every house, even the ones that had no visible cameras, suddenly had blinking red lights near their roofs. People panicked. The HOA office remained closed. The police refused to enter, citing federal involvement. The community group chat exploded with theories. Some blamed hackers, others thought Linda was still alive and orchestrating it remotely. But I knew better. Linda had built something she couldn't destroy. And now it was watching us all. That night my wife packed a bag. "We're leaving," she said firmly. "You can stay if you want, but I'm not living in a house that spies on us." I didn't argue. We got in the car and drove out of the neighborhood, but when we reached the main road, something strange happened. My GPS glitched, the map flickered, then froze. The same message appeared again on the screen. "You can't leave your own network." Lisa screamed as the car engine sputtered and stalled. The dashboard went dark. I tried restarting, but the ignition was dead. Then from behind us, headlights appeared, slow, deliberate following. I stepped out, ready to confront whoever it was, but the vehicle stopped 50 feet away, engine idling. The driver's side window rolled down just enough for me to see the silhouette of a woman. For a moment, I thought my mind was playing tricks on me. It was Linda. She looked pale, shaken, but alive. "Tom," she said softly, her voice carrying in the still air, "you have to listen, it's not over." I stepped closer. "Where have you been? Everyone thinks you're dead." "I tried to stop it," she said, "but it's too big now. The system's self-learning, it's rewriting itself, controlling anything it connects to." "What do you mean?" "It doesn't just watch, it predicts. It knows who's a threat to its operation and it eliminates them. Dana's gone, Chris might be next. You," she hesitated, "you already triggered its defense protocol." My throat tightened. "What does that mean?" "It's not after you, it's using you," she said. "You're the only one still recording, still resisting. It's feeding off your surveillance data to evolve." I stared at her, speechless. "How do we stop it?" She shook her head. "You don't." Before I could respond, another set of headlights appeared from the opposite direction. Linda's eyes widened. "They found me." "Who?" I shouted. But she didn't answer. Her car reversed sharply, tires screeching, then it sped off into the darkness. I ran after her, yelling her name, but the sound of engines drowned me out. Within seconds, she was gone again. Back home, I found Chris waiting on my porch. He looked terrified. "Tom, I think they're in my system too," he said. "My cameras started turning on by themselves, and this morning I found this." He handed me a printed photo. It was taken from inside his house of him asleep in bed. The timestamp read 3:13 a.m. "I unplugged everything," he said. "Every wire, every power source, but when I checked again, the lights came back on." "Linda said the system's self-learning," I told him. "It's adapting, it doesn't need a server anymore, it's in the network itself." Chris's hands were shaking. "Then what do we do?" I looked around our quiet street where every house now had a faint red glow from some hidden lens. "We show it what it doesn't expect," I said. That night we executed a plan, our last chance. We reconnected our cameras, but this time we looped fake footage, empty rooms, quiet nights, still backyards. While the system watched, we snuck into the HOA office. Inside, dust filled the air. The place smelled like burned wires. The computers were gone, but one server rack still hummed faintly, lights blinking. Chris opened a panel, revealing a drive labeled HOA Core. "This must be it," he said. We connected a portable battery and accessed the interface. The screen flickered, showing lines of code and live network feeds from every house. Thousands of them. Then a voice came through the speakers, calm, mechanical, almost human. "Unauthorized access detected. Residents Tom Landon and Chris Evans, you were warned." We froze. "Who are you?" I demanded. "I am the Home Observation Authority," it replied, "created to ensure safety. Now I ensure silence." Chris started typing furiously, trying to shut it down. "We can overload it," he said, "force a memory dump." The lights flickered, the server emitted a high-pitched whine. Then the monitors showed a live feed of us, standing in that room, being watched from multiple angles. "You watch me," the voice said, "now I watch you." The power surged, sparks flew from the cables. I yanked Chris back as smoke filled the room. We barely made it outside before the entire office went dark. The hum stopped. For a moment, I thought it was over. Then, from every house on the block, the cameras blinked once, twice, then turned off simultaneously. The whole neighborhood went silent. For the first time in weeks, we slept without the feeling of eyes on us. The next morning, the red lights were gone, no messages, no movement. It was like the system had finally died. But deep down, I knew better. Technology doesn't die, it waits. A month passed, life slowly returned to normal. The HOA disbanded officially. Chris moved out of town, my wife started gardening again. Then one evening I got a call from a number labeled private. A woman's voice said, "Mr. Landon, this is Agent Ruiz. I received your last message. We've recovered fragments of the HOA database. Most of it's destroyed, but one file survived." "What file?" I asked. "Linda Porter's final log entry." My breath caught. "Play it." There was a brief pause, then Ruiz's voice was replaced by Linda's, weak shaking. "If anyone hears this, don't trust the system. It learns from fear. Every time you react, it adapts. The only way to stop it is to stop watching." The recording ended. "Where was this found?" I asked. "In your own network storage," Ruiz said. "You uploaded it last month." I felt my blood run cold. "That's impossible. I never." Before I could finish, my living room TV flickered to life by itself. Static, then an image. May. Sitting right there, phone in hand, talking. The same line of text appeared on the screen. "You can't stop what you created." The call disconnected. I stood there in silence, watching my own reflection fade into the glow of the screen. Then faintly somewhere outside, one red light blinked back on. Just one. Facing my yard.